Okay, welcome back to another episode of Third and 23. I'm your host, Alex, here to bring you another pick and prediction video. We're talking even though it's the first game, it's my second semifinal video. I wanted to wait to make sure that the Ole Miss coaches were going to be allowed to coach in this game. If you guys aren't aware, Lane Kiffin allowed 6 coaches that he was bringing with him to LSU to stay with Ole Miss for the first 2 rounds. As I understand it, 4 of the coaches now are in LSU full time, but I wanted to make sure that Charlie Weiss Jr., the offensive coordinator, was going to still be allowed to stay at Ole Miss. He is, so they do have their play caller. So that was obviously that's big news because they would have had a brand new play caller for this game. So, anyways, we got Miami, Ole Miss. Miami comes in this game as a 3.5-point favorite. This is going to be the Fiesta Bowl in Glendale, Arizona. Let's go ahead and get into the matchup analyses on these two. I guess you could kind of say somewhat Cinderella stories that have made it to the semifinal round. All right, so let's take a look at first at the Miami offense against the Ole Miss defense. So Miami quarterback Carson Beck, he's got the experience, been in college forever. He had a lot of big games at Georgia, 2 big games in this college football playoff, in Texas A&M on the road, and then beating the defending champ Ohio State in the neutral site in the quarterfinal round. He's been top 10 in completion percentage, EPA, success rate for the majority of the year. His completion percentage, I believe, is second. It's 73% completion percentage. Now, I want to point out his average depth of target, 138th in the country. His average depth of target is 7 yards. And in the CFP, he has 0 completion on 20-plus air yard throws. He's only attempted 4, 2 in each game, and he hasn't completed any of them. His longest completion of the college football playoff is 20 yards, and obviously on a shorter throw with some yak there. Going against an Ole Miss pass defense that's been pretty solid on the back end all year, top 20 completion percentage and yards per attempt allowed. Against Georgia, the first time around, Gunnar Stockton kind of barbecued him up, 26 for 31, 290 yards passing, 4 touchdowns. But this second game, they did a much better job against him. Completion percentage was lowered down to close around 50% completion percentage in the quarterfinal round. And I believe he had 205 yards passing, somewhere around there for the game. So much better job in the college football playoff. O-line is going to be a big deal in this one. Carson Beck, one of the things that's allowed him to have success passing the ball is their pressure rate. They're first in the country, 16.2% of dropbacks have they allowed pressure. It's number 1 in the country against an Ole Miss pass rush that's really not that great, 72nd in sack rate. More than likely in this game, you're going to see a clean pocket for Carson Beck, but also more than likely in this game, you're going to see Carson Beck throw short passes. As I said, he's barely broken 100 yards passing in both college football playoff games. And I don't think that's going to change against this Ole Miss pass defense that's pretty solid. Where Ole Miss is weak, is run defense. They've been weak all season defending the run, and it hasn't mattered who the competition is. First time against Georgia, gave up 220 yards. Tulane, the first game, that they gave 180 yards, and I'm going from one end to the other end. A SEC conference champion to a G5 team that they made the playoff, but still ran for a 180. Now Ole Miss rush defense was much tougher against Georgia the second time around, but still Nate Frazier still was pretty decent running the ball, rushed for about 80 yards on a solid yard per carry average. Mark Fletcher against a similar ranked run defense, that's what I mean, a similar defense here, similarly ranked run defense in Texas A&M, he ran for 172 yards. And he had a 56-yard run in there in the fourth quarter, big run. Texas A&M gives up big running plays. But still, he was pretty effective for all 4 quarters in that one. You got to think that Mark Fletcher is going to have a similar kind of game, even if he doesn't hit 172. Similar effective runs against an Ole Miss run defense that just is what it is. It's just not that tough against the run. All right, let's go ahead and look at the flip side of this matchup. Miami's defense against Ole Miss's offense. So Miami's defense, this is what has led Miami here. It's the pass rush. You can look at all the different units on the field. It's the pass rush that's got them here. As I've said it many times, they have the best edge rushing duo in the country in Ruben Bain and Keem Mesidor. 2 guys that are likely going to go in the first round of the NFL draft. Going against a pass protection unit, Ole Miss, they've been good. 10th in pressure rate, 16th in sacks allowed. But Miami's done it against better ranked pass protection units than Ole Miss. So you got to assume that Bain and Mesidor are going to get some pressure on Chambliss in this game. Chambliss against Georgia, a team that's not that good at pressure in the quarterback, but they got some pressure on them in the quarterfinal round. Chambliss, 12 attempts, 75% completion percentage, 10.4 yards per attempt, 0 sacks. And you guys remember, if you watch the game, he's back there dancing around, hitting big chunk plays down the field. So he had a great game. I think he had 125 yards passing just on passes under pressure. So he did great under pressure. He's actually performed great under pressure all season. So is the key in this game is, can Bain and Mesidor and the rest of the unit get 5, 6 sacks like they've been doing so far in the playoff, and like they've done for majority of the season? Because if Chambliss is able to dance around and escape pressure, he's going to be able to find throws downfield. One thing I wanted to note here. So Miami's defense, in terms of explosives volume, the amount of explosive pass plays they've given up, 6th in the country. And as I said before, it's probably because of their pass rush is getting to the quarterbacks, are not able to throw too many passes downfield. When QBs have been able to go downfield on 20-plus air yards, they're giving up 15.1 yards per attempt. That's 109th in the country. What I mean by that is they are giving up chunk plays. You can land them if you throw them, if you got time to throw them. And you saw Smitty from Ohio State and Julian saying he hit some big chunk plays against them in that game. So you can't go over the top. Chambliss throws over the top. 20-plus air yard throws this season. He's 13th in completion percentage, 14th in yards per attempt at 17.4. So in this game, I got to assume that Ole Miss is going to be able to hit some passes over the top. If it's there, they're going to be able to hit some plays over the top. And then finally, running game. Miami, one of the stronger run defense units in the country, 7th in the nation. But Georgia, they were one of the strongest units in the nation too, similar to Miami. Hell, you could say better than Miami. The first time around, they stopped Kejuan Lacey, 12 carries, 31 yards. But in the quarterfinal round, Lacey found room. He found that a lot of off tackle on the edge, 22 carries for 98 yards. So not a huge day for Lacey. But against that defense, that's one of the stories of the game. I mean, it was a lot of Trinidad Chambliss dancing around, hitting plays, but Lacey was good, 22 for 98. If he can have a similar game like that against Miami, it could go a long way in helping Ole Miss win this game. So then finally, what's my prediction? This is a tough one. This is one, to go back and forth on. I'm looking at it in two ways. On one hand, Miami, they're going to be able to run the ball, right? Mark Fletcher should have a good game on the ground. Carson Beck, I just don't believe he's going to, out of nowhere, throw for 350 or something like that. He hasn't thrown for more than 138 yards in the playoff yet. Against another SEC opponent they played earlier this season, Florida, that wasn't that good, and certainly not as good as Ole Miss's defense. He only had 167 yards in that game, 56 completion percentage. So when I look at Miami, I say, I don't know how much balance they're going to have, because I think the Ole Miss DBs can handle the Miami wide receivers. So it's going to be up to Miami's running game and their defense for him to win this game. Flip side of that, Ole Miss, I do think Chambliss is going to hit some plays over the top. I doubted him last week. I'm not going to doubt him this week. You got to respect what he's doing. He's the most dangerous quarterback left in the college football playoff, and that's including the Heisman Trophy winner. He's going to be able to dance around and hit some plays over the top. I think he's also going to get sacked, though. He's going to take some sacks in this game. The key is Lacey going to be able to run the ball or not? And that's the key to deciding who's going to win this game. If Lacey can run the ball, I think Ole Miss is going to win. If he can't run the ball, I would probably lean more towards Miami. But I think this is going to be a tight game. I like the hook in this one. Go ahead and give me Ole Miss plus 3.5. I'm not saying I wouldn't money line it. I'm not saying Ole Miss is going to win the game. But, I think this is going to be a tight one. Could be a 3-point margin of victory for Miami. And we still cover there. So go ahead and give me the Rebs plus 3.5. So anyway, if you like the content, please like, comment, subscribe, all of that, as you're going to see more pick and prediction videos going forward. Take care.